guys, if you're struggling to make this deck or any deck I've ever shown, check out the card up in the description down below along with my Twitch and my Discord so you can keep up to date about the channel and when I go live so you don't miss out on the live experience. Guys, this is a anti-stun or meta deck if you want to call it, that back in the day when it was like the first hat deck in hat form, Matt like created kind of this thing with Artifact Scythe. This is kind of the same thing, just that it's basically a deck full of floodgates, stops your opponent from doing anything. It's like the monster version of Mystic Mine. Mystic Mine is like the spell that does that stops your opponent. This is Monster's version. So without any further ado, guys, let me show you how cancerous this deck can be. So starting us off, guys, of course, 2 copies of Ash Blossom Joy Springs should be in every deck. Fantastic hand trap. Now, guys, I'm running 3 copies of Banisher of the Radiant simply because it has the effect any card that's sent from the graveyard is banished instead. A lot of decks particularly near the graveyard, especially combo decks, so if you go up against a Banisher, they're gonna really scream and hate you. And especially if you combine this with Mirror Shield, it means every card will go to the graveyard and your opponent's kind of wanting to despise you. Now, you might be thinking running a Fet Veiler in this deck is really bad. By all means, you can take it out. You can put in Jalgin. I took out Jalgin because it's kind of because it was kind of I had too many normal summons, and I put in a Fet Veiler for more hand traps. Now, if you do control Banisher of the Radiance or Inspector Border, you can't play a Fet Veiler because Banisher says it has to go to the graveyard. All cards will be banished. A Fet Veiler does have to go to the graveyard to trigger its effect. So you can't Fet Veiler under Banisher, and you can't use any hand traps under Inspector Border because it's a weird card. So you might think this is a bad card. By all means, you can take it out, but I just found having that extra monster negate really came in handy a lot of the time, especially if I was forced to go second. Fossil Dino Pachycephalo, if this card is flipped face up, destroy all special monsters, and while it's on the field, neither player can special summon any monsters. So if you have Dino Pachycephalo along with Mirror Shield, neither player can basically special summon, and your opponent has to out it with a card effect if they wish to actually play the game. Now, Inspector Border, I have no clue how this card works. If someone can tell me, I will literally love you. I think it's something to do with Ritual Fusion, Synchro, Xyz, Pendulum, and Links, and all that bullshit. So I'm guessing if there's none of the special monsters such as Ritual Fusion and all that stuff, if none of them are on the field, neither player can use monster effects. So if you simply turn 1, play Inspector Border, no monster effects will be resolving for the remainder of that turn, and this does shut down hand traps as well, so please bear that in mind. But I'm guessing if there's like a link monster, then you can only play 1 monster effect. Kind of the same if there's like Fusion Synchro, you can play 2. You kind of get the gist. But Inspector Border I used to basically just use as a floodgate, especially again combined with Mirror Shield, makes it so neither player can use monster effects. But guys, this doesn't stop floodgates. So Inspector Border makes it so neither player can activate monster effects, but floodgate effects such as Banisher, Thunder King, Ryu, and Fossil Dino will still trigger. So their effects are still going to be active. Just if you activate an effect, it's not going to trigger. Speaking of Thunder King Ryu, its effect is neither player can add cards from deck to the hand. That means your opponent can't search. If you was under Inspector Border, this effect will still trigger, but the second part of Thunder King Ryu, where you can, if your opponent would special summon, you can summon this card from the card to the graveyard. It wouldn't trigger because that's an activated effect. So you see what I mean, guys, where it's like the floodgate effects still trigger even under Inspector Border. Now we've got 3 copies of Mirror Shield because this is like the MVP of the deck. It basically makes it so all your floodgates can't be destroyed by battle. Your opponent would have to either out the monster or move Mirror Shield by a card effect. Now, we're also running 2 copies of Necro Valley. Necro Valley is the ultimate field spell. Necro Valley has the effect where neither player can do anything that involves the graveyard, basically. If you want to banish from the graveyard, if you want to resurrect a monster from the graveyard, that's a big no-no. And as you can see, this deck does nothing that involves the graveyard. We have no Monster Reborns, we have no nothing. So if a card goes to the graveyard, it's gone. So we don't particularly care about the graveyards. This card doesn't affect us one little bit. Hinders your opponent, especially if you have something like Inspector Border, Necro Valley. All monster effects are negated, and your opponent can't do anything that involves the graveyard. So that does really equal cancerous. We have Pod of Duality because we aren't going to really special summon at all. So you can check the top 3 cards of your deck, add 1 of them to your hand, and you can do Pod of Extravagance. So you can banish 6 cards randomly from your extra deck, draw draw 2 cards. You can do Extrav and Duradi in the same turn. That's not a problem. Again, you don't particularly care about your X deck, so this is actually a bonus. 2 Twin Twister, you could pop this card up to 3, but I really just wanted 2. Doing this makes it so you can out like back row, especially if you're going up against the Mystic Mine. Just outing cards is really comes in handy. The discard is really great because you can use your dead hand traps should you control Inspector Border. 2 copies of Compulse to just bounce your opponent's card back into the deck. 2 copies of Crackdown. By all means, you could bump Crackdown up to 3. You could even take out the 3 Effect Veilers and run like triple Crackdown, triple Compulse if you want, by all means. I just ran it like this, but you could easily do that. It doesn't really matter either way. But yeah, Compulse just bounces the card back to the hand. Crackdown steals an opponent's monster. So say you've got Fossil Dino in attack mode and your opponent has a way to like out it via barrel. You just do Crackdown, steal your opponent's monster. We've got Imperm, because it's another hand trap. You can do Imperm under Inspector Border, and you can do it under Banisher of the Radiance because it's a trap, it's not a monster. So you can use this card. This is like the better version of Effect Veil. By all means, you can take out Effect Veil, like I keep saying, guys. And then 3 copies of Judgment, because Judgment stops the opponent if they would normal summon, and it stops your opponent if they would play a spell or trap. So then, say they've gone out the Moon Mirror Shield, you could just Judgment so that you can just negate the out. Now the extra deck, you can just chuck in anything. I chucked in 2 Borrow Sword, 2 Masquerader, 2 Cerberus, 2 Phoenix, 2 Unicorn, 2 Avarax, and triple Anime. By all means, you could just chuck in anything. You don't really care about your extra because you're just going to banish it all off with Extra. But yeah, the whole purpose of this deck, guys, like I say, is literally to just floodgate your opponent, stop them from summoning out anything. By all means, like I say, you could put in Jalgan, because Jalgan's effect is pretty much the same as Pachycephalo, just that it's got 200 attacks of 1,200. By all means, I say you could put Jalgan in. You can take out Effect Veiler because obviously she's like the weakest link of this deck. But I found it I found this deck kind of works. You can put in more purple cards by all means, and yeah, just have fun tormenting your opponent if Mystic Mine was not enough for you. And yeah, that's it for the deck, guys. Very short because the replays are long. Straightforward deck. This is like Chimp Yu-Gi-Oh! At its most, and I do hope you don't annoy many people with this deck. And without further ado, guys, I would love to hear your comments apart from saying I'm okay if someone hurt me, or I'm just a toxic person in general. Hit that thumbs up if you do like this deck, and or consider subscribing, because everyone does help out the channel very well. And without any further ado, guys, take care. I hope you enjoy the replays, and goodbye.